Okay, moving on to legislative update. Mr. Triplett. Oh, custodial update. Sorry, I'm moving ahead. Dr. Adams.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So currently out of our 398 positions, we have 75 openings. That leaves us at 6 schools that exceed 50% or more. I will say on a good note, we have filled 15 custodial positions since October. Just to put it in perspective, we were at 90 vacancies, and so we are now at 75. I do want to recognize Ms. Hemmelgarn and our maintenance team, especially Lori Hall, for working diligently to fill those positions. I know Ms. Hall personally makes contact with the majority of applicants we have and sits down with one individually with those applicants and goes over the application process. So I certainly appreciate their efforts, and also appreciate the HR team for their enhanced digital advertising methods that they've been using. That has been very beneficial. We are currently planning to gather our entire custodial team, and that will be once we return from the winter break. Very excited for us to recognize those individuals. That our custodial staff is no secret to anyone. They work extremely hard, and they're invaluable, and they're an intricate part in the way that we function on a day-to-day basis. So we're looking forward to convening when we return from break and recognizing those custodians. That's something that is in the works, and this is something that these are conversations I had with some of our custodians last year. This is something that they wanted, and this is, you know, when we talk about our ops team across the board, families is key, and I use that. I don't use that term loosely. We spend more time with our colleagues than we do with our family. And so that is something that they were very interested in, and so we were going to push to make that happen once we return. I do want to address what we're going to do in the future. In the winter break, despite our efforts, we have a number of schools in need of additional support. So we plan to use the winter to provide a deep clean, which is a supplemental cleaning service for our high need schools. Now keep in mind, this is no different from what we do for our information technology and what we do for our maintenance department. Where we fall short, we certainly reach out and use supplemented contracts to ensure our custodians are able to spend time with their families during Christmas or during the holidays. We want to ensure that they have that time, so what we plan on doing is expediting that process and working with Duncan & Sons. And the reason we're using Duncan & Sons is because they have already been vetted through the background check process with our HR department. Moving forward beyond that, you know, while we are fortunate to be in a position of relief for those 6 schools, we have to address the ongoing concerns. And so we are prepared. Once we return from the winter break, it is my goal to begin the process of opening an RFQ through the Knox County procurement to identify potential supplemental services for a service provider. Starting that bidding process will assist us in identifying viable candidates to provide much needed supplemental cleaning services at schools that have vacancies at 50% or higher. And so this is something for us to keep in our back pocket. I'm very hopeful and optimistic that we are closing the gap. As you can see, within a couple of months, we've hired 15 custodians, and that has not been the norm. Looking at this last year when we were at 90 and we stayed in the 80s, it's great to be in the 70s. So that's where we are currently, and if you have any additional questions, please feel free to ask now or reach out to me directly. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Dr. Adams. Thank you. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Dr. Adams, the RFQ that you were talking about for additional supplemental support, that would be in addition to an ongoing contract with Duncan & Sons. So are you looking at potentially having access to another provider similar to Duncan & Sons? Is that the goal?
Thank you, Mr. Watson. That's an excellent question. So we would not have a contract with Duncan & Sons like we had a contract before. We would be paying for a service. So they would come in and they would do a service over the winter holidays and that. I'm sorry,
I'm actually asking about the last thing that you mentioned. You mentioned coming back and having a new RFQ.
Yes. So the RFQ would go through the bidding process. And so we would, if we needed to use a vendor, we would identify a viable vendor to use for a contract.
So what you're saying is we would potentially have access to more than just Duncan and Sons? There
that
may
is
be
correct.
another, and are you suggesting maybe even 2 or 3, depending on how the bid process goes?
That is correct. They would be on standby. And
Right.
this isn't something that we're moving toward. This is something just in case, in an emergency situation.
Sure.
The tourniquet example that Reverend Butler used. If we're ever in that predicament, then we would be able to move forward with that.
Reverend
think-
Butler's got a lot of quotables to board
Yeah.
minutes, and that's one of them. I remember that one. Okay, thank you.
I think, Dr. Roswick, do you have something to add?
I think I'm hearing this right. So just a point of clarity, the Duncan and Son contract that we used last year actually expired, so we're not currently working with them. I think the deep clean you're talking about would be one that would be just like a one-time thing that they would, if potentially if they want to apply for the RFP through procurement and do that, they could, but we don't currently have a contract with them. It expired last
No,
year.
I understand that, but I
Okay.
think Dr. Adams is actually speaking about 2 different things. You're speaking about a deep clean during a specific period of time over the winter, but you're also talking about after, like into January, getting another RFQ out there for access to a potential vendor or vendors, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
That's what I wanted to delineate. They're not the same thing. You're not talking about an RFQ for the deep clean itself.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Adams.